Hey guys, this is I'm Just an Asshole Sometimes podcast, and I'm your host, Clarissa, with a K. So, I'm going to start off with a subreddit called Beyond the Bump. The name of it is My Husband Does Not Like Our Toddler. Okay, using throwaway because this is a bit of a personal post. Our kid is almost 2. And the terrible twos have come early to our house. She is often loud, cries when she doesn't get her way, loves to say no, does not want to sit in one place for a while, has occasional tantrums, etc. From observing her peers, I really don't think she's worse than most toddlers. It's just a difficult age. My husband works a lot during the week, and he's told me that he dreads the weekends because he does not enjoy hanging out with her. When she's acting up, he gets really frustrated. Even when she's behaving, he says that he doesn't like being with her because it's boring and not rewarding. When we talk about weekend plans, he doesn't look forward to them because all we can do is go to playgrounds, petting zoos, and other kid places. He says when she's like 5 or 6 and they can have actual conversations and do interesting activities, it'll be better. But for now, he loves her but doesn't like her. I'm really at a loss for what to do, as this has really ruined the weekends for us and is putting a damper on our marriage. We already have a weekly date night on Friday and Saturday, and a couple times during her nap, but he still resents all the other time that we need to spend with her. We did try finding things to do together that would be enjoyable for us as well, but it's mostly been a flop. When she was a baby, we could take her places and she'd chill in her stroller. Now she won't go in the stroller at all. When we try to go biking, she screams because she doesn't want to sit in the trailer. When we go to museums and sculpture parks, she touches the art and screams if we don't let her. Even something like a restaurant or outdoor beer garden doesn't work because she wants to explore instead of sitting. We end up chasing her instead of enjoying ourselves. When we hang out with friends, one of us always has to follow her around whatever house or place we're in, making sure she doesn't break anything or hurt herself. I should add that I've also had some trouble giving up my pre-kid life, which involved a lot of exploring, traveling, art, nature, good food, etc. I've largely made peace with it and learned to find joy in parenting, etc. I think I would be totally happy with this stage of my life if I had a partner that was positive and excited about it. However, I really struggle when my husband is so obviously not enjoying it and making comments about how life is going to suck for the next few years. It makes me get frustrated and wonder if we shouldn't have become parents and what's wrong with us that we can't enjoy our weekend family time like everyone else does. And we just end up counting down the minutes until the babysitter comes or she goes to daycare. TLDR, my husband hates parenting a toddler. His negativity gives me negative feelings about parenting as well. Due to this, we both dread the evenings and weekends when we have to spend time with her. Reading that really broke my heart because I have a 2-year-old. He turned 2 in January, and I absolutely love this stage. I mean, not all of it, but just when I think I'm at a stage where it's like, wow, this is an amazing stage. Like, this is by far my favorite. It gets better. I don't know. I could never look at my little boy and be like, well, I love him, but I don't really like him. To me, that sounds so messed up, especially when this guy is working a lot during the week and then just essentially spends weekends with his family. My husband, he works Monday through Friday, sometimes 10 hours, sometimes 12. And the most adorable thing ever, I don't know, I wish I could take a picture of this and put it out there, but I really don't want to show my son, but I might show the back and the silhouette of it. But he knows exactly what time Daddy comes home. He runs to this window where he sees my husband pull up. And he's waiting at the window, and he knows my husband will walk by it. And he's pounding on the window, yelling, "Dad, Dad, Dad, Dad." And my husband absolutely loves it. He just stands there smiling and waving. And it's the sweetest thing ever. And as soon as my husband comes home, he's not just relaxed. He jumps in right away and he helps. I also have a 6-month-old, so we're a partnership. It's not just all duties fall on one person. And then the weekend, I don't know, have you guys ever looked at your partner and thought, there's no way I could love that person any more than I do now? Like, it's impossible. Then you see them doing something and it's like, wow, I absolutely love this person even more than I thought I ever could. That's me when I see my husband with our kids. I don't think he's ever raised his voice at them, and I appreciate that because we agreed that we would never really yell at them or I'm trying to think of words. Just instead of yelling no, just kind of explain to them hey, you can't touch this because it's really gentle, it might break, and then it could give you an owie. I don't know, just stuff like that. And now that he's getting older, it's funner to bring him places and see him experiencing things for the first time through his little toddler eyes. I don't know, I love it. And then how he acts with his little brother, it makes my heart want to explode. My 6-month-old is teething, and he's been having a rough go at it. And when he's fussy, upset, my 2-year-old will grab one of his favorite toys, and he will book it to right next to his brother. And he will set his toy either next to him or near him. And if our 6-month-old starts, grabbing it and kind of looking at it, our oldest just gets so excited and he squeals and he claps because his brother's enjoying, his favorite toy. It's just sweet. I don't know how I'd feel if my husband acted so negatively about our 2-year-old. I mean, it would definitely take a toll on me. And it just makes me so sad because there are a lot of people out there that can't have kids. I mean, it took me a while to have our first, and it was a complete surprise. I mean, it took about 4 years, several losses, and I don't know, we appreciate being parents, as corny as that sounds. But there's times where we look at each other and it's what did we do before we were parents? I mean, we've been together almost 9 years. We had our son when we've been together 6-7 years. And it's just what did we do before this magical little man came into our life? I don't know. If he was talking so negatively about him, I think I would snap and, I don't know, put him in his place. Hey, appreciate this little person that we brought into this world. Don't make, I don't know, these negative comments that he's no fun, whatever, because kids can sense that. Oh, Dad loves me. I mean, they might think that, but they can sense if they think Dad doesn't like them or just seems annoyed or yells at them. It's sad. So anyway, guys, I'm going to start reading the comments. Okay, this one says, I should add that I've also had some trouble giving up my pre-kid life, which involved a lot of exploring, traveling, art, nature, good food, etc. Those are precisely the things you should be doing with your kid. We didn't give up any of the things we love. We love including him in all the things we cherish. Is it harder? Yes. We took little one camping. Lots of extra work, totally worth it. Then OP responds, this is a controversial topic, and a lot has been said about it on the internet before, so I don't want to go into a long rant, but the problem with your comment is that every child is different as far as needs and temperament. Not all parents have the luxury of doing adult-orientated activities with their kid. I remember a few months ago, a group of mom friends and I had a play date at a baby-friendly beer garden. One toddler played nicely next to his mom throughout the afternoon. Another fussed a bit, but then passed out in her stroller. A couple kids, including mine, made occasional escape attempts, but mostly stayed close by, though they needed much more attention and entertainment. Finally, two little girls did not stop trying to run away and knock into strangers, and their moms could not enjoy the afternoon at all, and finally left early. My friends and I had the same wide range of experiences when we compared notes on traveling with our kids, hiking together, restaurant outings, and pretty much anything else. I know all these families, and no one here is a bad parent. They're just working with the hand they've been dealt with. Developmental delays, differences, shyness, fear of the unknown, need for routine, need to move around, etc. are just some of the factors that decide whether you end up being one of those cool families that can bring their kid up anywhere or not. It can be hard to remember this when you're not having the same issues as others. I'm totally guilty of this when it comes to sleep. My kid has always been an amazing sleeper, and when my parents have kid sleep problems, my first reaction is to start giving advice about what they should do differently, but then I realize that a lot of it is just luck, not their parenting choices. All this to say, unfortunately, at this stage in her life, our child unfortunately can't participate in many of the activities we like doing. We brought her along when she was younger, and I'm sure we will again when she's older. For now, though, I think our challenge is learning to temporarily live a much more kid-centered existence. Okay, I get that. But I don't know, when I think back, I don't think I gave up my pre-kid life. My husband and I were wanting children so bad that, we are not the partying type. Trust me. We both have anxiety. We do not like being the center of attention. I don't think me and him have ever gone to a bar together and drank, honestly. We would go out to eat every now and then, but then with the pandemic and with the little kid and whatever, not so much, but we'll order in and, that's good enough for me. I don't know, as I've gotten older, I've gotten more, better at being alone. When I was younger, I was a social butterfly. If I was home on a Saturday, it was like catastrophic. But now I'm learning to enjoy the littler things in life, the more peaceful things. Like, I love reading books to my kids. I love when I'm reading and my 2-year-old sits in my lap and cuddles up next to me. And just, I make different voices for different characters, and he'll look at me and smile and giggle. For Christmas, we got this little fort tent thing for him that's a rocket ship. Me and him will chill in there while his brother's sleeping and just, have fun in there. I'll make his little stuffed animals bark or tweet or whatever. And it's just, I absolutely love it. So to me, I can't comprehend this right now. And not to say that anyone that does feel like this is a bad parent by any means. Absolutely not. But I was at a point in my life where I was beyond ready to become a mom. I had my first at 33, and then I had my second at 35. So I'm still 35, and, all my party days are way, way back in my 20s. It's just, I'm done with it, you know? Okay, let's read some more. This person says, I get being frustrated at times with the demands of a 2-year-old, as mine will be 2 on Monday, and he loves his nose. And they meant nose as in no, not the nose on your face. But if it helps, sometimes I like making a game of the nose and start listing off things I know he loves until eventually he breaks down and starts vigorously nodding to ask for the activity I listed. Also, why not take your little one for a hike if you enjoy nature? If you enjoy museums, ask her to mimic the poses. Toddlers are active and she'll love doing it. Also, our little one wants to touch everything he shouldn't. Diaper changes, ew. We have him point to his body parts and pretend like we don't remember where his chin, hair, shoulder, etc. is located, which has added benefit of helping us identify boo-boos. Then OP said, thanks for the tips. I'll definitely try these. And then I am trying to find more comments. Okay, here's one. No offense, but your husband sounds terrible. He needs to grow up and understand the consequences of his decision to have a kid, and then effing parent, and parent responsibly. Kids are so sensitive to the emotional tone of their parents and family. It's not helping your kid that he oozes irritation and annoyance while around her. If the 2 adults in her life delighted in her instead of resenting her, then maybe she'd behave better. Your husband's acting like a child and is trying to escape the obvious consequences of his actions, decisions. Tell him to suck it up and try harder. It's not about him anymore. Edit. And he needs to work on his attitude so that you get basic support too. It's so selfish how he's acting. I agree so much to this. And then OP put, probably my biggest fear is that she is picking up on the negativity despite being so young. I will be showing him some of these comments to try to help him understand this. Yes, kids pick up all of that. It's like, I don't know, my husband and I, we will never say anything negative towards our kids at all. Even saying something like, oh, aren't you crabby? Or are you being a bad boy? I don't want them to associate that I'm bad. You know, they used to call me a good boy, but now I'm bad. I don't want to give them that kind of complex, you know. Sometimes I'll just ask him, be like, are you having a rough day today? Just validate his feelings and, you know, try to hopefully smooth it over. But yeah, kids have excellent intuition and they can pick up on so much. So I'm glad that my husband and I talked endlessly about how we wanted to raise our children before they even came. We were both on the same page about everything, which helps too, because if you're not on the same page, that's going to make it really hard for parenting. So this concludes the first segment. So I'll be back with another one. Okay, guys, I'm going to continue on with the theme of kids and marriage, I guess. So just to warn you, this is a long one, but I think it's pretty good. The title is Regrets, Married for a Week, and they're venting. So my husband and I had a shotgun wedding this last Saturday because I was pregnant, due any day, and he wanted to make sure we were married beforehand. It really made no difference to me. I love him and wanted to marry him, but to be honest, I had no desire to get married at 40 weeks pregnant, compounding an already stressful pregnancy due to some health issues and work stress, but was important to me, so I agreed. A week later, we welcomed our child into the world in a very stressful delivery that ended up with an emergency cesarean. And I swear the man I knew 7 days ago is not the man I've been introduced in the days following. First, in the middle of laboring, he left to go get something to eat. Instead of bringing back takeout or something, he ate dinner at the bar while enjoying a glass of wine, leaving me by myself when the news came that my blood pressure was dropping and the baby's heart rate was dropping, and we had to change course. Because we had just got married on Saturday and I went into labor on Tuesday, we couldn't get my name changed, so everything was Patient X and Baby X, which upset him enough that he tossed the hospital bracelets. Unfortunately, Baby had a wristband and ankle, and I had saved one that fell off while in the hospital. Yesterday was our first day home. Baby was only estimated to be about 6.5 to 7 pounds at birth, according to weekly ultrasounds. Well, surprisingly, she was almost 9 pounds. Both him and I are pretty small people, so his question to me last night was, "Are you sure the baby's mine?" I laughed. It was incredulous, and when he didn't laugh back, I asked him if he was serious, and he said yes. I told him that was incredibly painful, and to never, but ever, question me about our daughter again. I have never, but ever done anything or given him any reason to think otherwise. Now he doesn't want any family friends to visit right now. Because he moved in with me, he sees this as my house and feels that no one in my family respects him here. He chooses to keep all conversations with my family and friends as superficial as possible, so they don't really know him, which makes visits uncomfortable. He wants family to visit in 2 months or so, after we've sold my house and moved into a new house. So I'm a brand new mom with a willing support system that my husband doesn't want around. Last night, first night home, Baby is struggling to settle in. I am in pain. He's sleeping, or at least ignoring the screaming baby. And I finally get up and grab the baby from the bassinet and go to the couch where I break down and cry while trying to get the baby settled. What I really wanted to do was wake him up and tell him he needed to leave. A week ago, I married a sweet, charming man, so I thought, and now I'm already considering hiring a very good family attorney and getting divorced. And then edited to add, in between conceiving and the positive test, I did have some concerns about how he handled jealousy. I was pulling away and he could tell, and he apologized, promised to do better. It wasn't that I did anything wrong, but even something as innocent as bringing up a male classmate from 15 years ago would cause him to spiral. When he would get jealous, he would ice me out for a day and then kind of rant about how he didn't want to hear about my past life. We are not young. He is in his mid-40s and I am in my early 30s. We both have careers and he makes more than I do, but I am more fiscally responsible and have more in savings and own my own house. I have been pretty independent my entire life and have been working on my parents' farm since I was 8, starting babysitting at 11, and started working my first real job at 14. He does not want me to quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom. I have not, will not agree to this, but have tried to compromise and agree to a career change where I will work from home. He is not really on board with this unless I can get hired by the company he works for. We dated 2 years before moving in together, almost exactly a year ago. Our dating was a little unconventional since we both traveled for work until COVID hit, so lots of texting, calls, video chats. 5 months later, I found out I was pregnant. When I got pregnant, we weren't doing anything to prevent conception, And at that point, we were actively discussing building a family together. With that being said, I have endometriosis, adenomyosis, and suspected PCOS, so I didn't really think it would happen so quickly either. We got married on Saturday. Monday was a holiday. Tuesday I went into labor. Wednesday morning I had our daughter. He left the hospital to go take a shower and feed the cat. While he was at home, he took our marriage license and had it filed. I didn't even know he did this until he got back to the hospital. Hindsight is 2020, and of course, as I look back, the extensive attention and doting looks different right now. Oh, this one, I would be so pissed if I'm in labor and my husband decides to go eat at the bar. Thing is, I was induced because I was a week overdue. I was in labor probably over 30 hours, and then I had to have a C-section. Thing is, I wasn't allowed to eat at all, and I was so hungry. My husband, I always joke that he has an empty leg because he can eat and eat and eat without gaining a pound. And he would not eat at all. He figured since I couldn't eat, I was in pain, whatever, solidarity. And I appreciate that. He knew it was really hard for me. And then I couldn't imagine him leaving me while I'm in the middle of labor. I mean, I remember looking over at him one time. I wasn't screaming. I was just one of those types that I would get a contraction and I'd hold my breath and grip the rails. And I look over and I see tears falling out of his eyes. And, I felt so bad. And he felt bad that I was in pain and whatever. It's nice that he has such compassion and empathy for me that I couldn't imagine this asshole doing what he did to his wife. I mean, ugh. So, I don't know. And I don't know why she married him a week before she had her baby. I don't know if she felt pressured to, if she actually really wanted to. I don't know. If I were her, I'd maybe stick it out a little bit because after having a baby, your hormones are everywhere. And I would I would absolutely talk to him and express my concerns. And if things didn't get better in 6 months to a year, I would probably really consider filing for divorce. It's just he shows a lot of red flags and you can't ignore those. And he wants family to visit in 2 months. I mean, that seems kind of excessive, but I mean, if you take precautions for, visiting a baby, you shouldn't have to wait 2 months, but I mean, that's what we did, but we didn't have a ton of visitors. I can imagine being the one getting up and this guy isn't really doing anything. I don't know. It's parenthood, it's a partnership. It's supposed to be a happy time. You're navigating this whole new world together and enjoying it, or supposed to be enjoying it, or I don't know. This whole thing just makes me feel kind of weird. I don't know. And then she said too that before COVID hit, and 5 months before she got pregnant, they're both traveling a lot, so it was a long distance relationship, it sounds like. So lots of calls, texts, video chats, but until you actually live with someone, you don't know if you're even compatible to be with them. I don't know. My husband and I lived together pretty much 6 years, 6, 7 years before we got married. that we absolutely, can cohabitate together. I'm just scrolling through this post and trying to pick out other things that kind of jump out to me. Okay, I'm going to read the comments because I'm anxious to see what they say. Okay, someone put, he sounds incredibly controlling, so definitely do not let him cut you off from your friends and family. Invite your people over to get the help you need, since he's being a loser. And watch him around your baby in case other bad habits appear. Take care of yourself and baby first. Good luck. Let's see. Even without getting married a mere few days ago, this is a stressful time anyway. C-sections are no joke. It's major surgery. Yours was an emergency one. Having had a scheduled C-section myself, they're no walk in the park. You need to have loving people around to help you. Help with the baby, especially as you are recovering. You have experienced 2 major life events in less than 1 week, marriage and a baby. I know you're in pain physically and emotionally. Don't forget about PPD, but you have to do whatever it takes to keep you and baby well taken care of. Congrats on becoming a mom. It's one of the hardest, yet most beautiful jobs. And correct, I had 2 C-sections, and oh my God, they are painful. And I remember leaving the hospital 16 hours after having my second son because I begged to leave to be able to go with him to the NICU. And I was surprised at my determination and will because most people aren't walking a few miles, less than 24 hours after having one. So I was proud that I did that. I mean, it was hell, but I was proud. And you absolutely need help. You're not supposed to lift anything heavier than your baby. And if this guy isn't helping her, then he's just a joke. Let's see. Someone said also it's been a week. Sounds like an annulment may be appropriate. Avoid any division of assets and annul the marriage as if it never happened in the first place. Someone said, I agree. I'm not saying he's abusive, but there are some serious red flags here. It's time for you to have some serious boundaries here. Teach him how to treat you now. Get your family there to your house to support you. Tell him what you need him to do. See how he responds. If he doesn't have the capacity to understand what you've been through and be a decent person, go no further with him. I agree. So that's it on this one, but makes me feel so sad for the poster. I really hope things have gotten better for her. Okay, guys, I'm going to continue on with the whole parenting dynamic because this one's a really interesting one. Am I the asshole for making my wife think our son was missing? My wife has a horrible habit that I discovered 2 months ago. We were ordering lunch on the Subway app, and I told her to pick the location that has a drive-thru. That way we don't have to go inside and take the baby out of the car just to clip him back in a few minutes later. She told me it's not a big deal to have the baby in the car to run in and pick it up really fast. I had no idea she ever did this. I told her I was not comfortable with her leaving him in the car alone, even for a minute. And she told me she's been doing it since he was born, and it's always been fine. She told me she does it to pick up food, run into the post office or pharmacy, etc. I was floored. We don't live in a horrible area, but it's also not super safe either. I told her to not ever do this again. She told me she never stopped to think about it, the potential dangers, and that she would just stop doing it. Well, yesterday, as I was driving home from my brother's house, I spotted her car at the gas station near our place. It was parked in a spot up front and not at a pump, so I figured she stopped in to grab some snacks, which we like to do. I decided to stop and go in and say hi and get some food, and I pulled in and parked next to her. However, when I got there, I was furious to find our son in his car seat. The car wasn't even locked. I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, I decided to take my son and put him into my car. He's got a car seat in there too. I then drove to the other side of the gas station parking lot and waited for my wife to come out. It took 6 minutes for her to appear. When she saw that he was gone, she looked stunned for a second, and then started to frantically look around and cry. I didn't let it go on too long. After this, I saw her pull out her phone, presumably to call 911, and that's when I pulled my car around to her. I parked, got out, walked around to my son's door, and opened it to show her. She looked extremely relieved, but that quickly turned into anger with her asking me why I took him and did that to her. I told her she needed to learn her lesson, and she promised to stop leaving him in the car, and that she was extremely irresponsible. It was so easy for me to pull up and take him. No one else at the gas station even noticed. So if he really was taken there would have been no help, and it would have been 100% her fault. She proceeded to call me cruel and psychotic and tried taking our son out of my car into hers. I said no and that I would be driving him home, and I left. She came home not much later, but ignored me the rest of the day. She acknowledged me today, saying she wanted an apology, and I said absolutely not, and she's the one who should be saying sorry. She's been guilt-tripping me the rest of the day, saying no mother should experience the fear I put her through. Did I go too far? Am I the asshole? Edit. Please check comments for an update. I can't add it here due to character limit. Okay. Usually I'd be like, okay, that's kind of an asshole move, but she promised him, and he expressed how uncomfortable he was that she was doing that. So sometimes you actually need to be taught the hard way. And this isn't exactly the hard way considering, someone could have actually taken him. And then, let's see. He actually says, I guess I should clarify that the car was running with the air on. I forgot to add that detail and was restricted by the character limit, but the car was on. It's a push-to-start car with a sensor for the key fob, so it'll stay on running as long as you're close enough to the vehicle. I didn't see the keys in the car, so she took them inside with her, but didn't lock it. And then when I've been scrolling through this, a lot of people say that, yeah, you need the key fob to start it, but once it's running, it doesn't matter where the fob is, that you can just jump in the car and take off. But you need it to restart it, but as long as it's running, you're good to go, which is seriously messed up. The car is running unlocked with her child in it. I don't know, I think I might have done something like that if I saw my child in that situation, because sometimes you have to put the fear of God in someone to get them to stop an awful habit that they started. Someone said, normally I'm fully against game playing, but this is your child's life. I support your actions. Your wife is being hugely neglectful. Not to mention it'll be warm soon. And being left in a hot car, even for a few minutes, can be deadly. Not the asshole, and I won't let her take him anywhere until she apologizes. Also, when I originally read this, I live in the frozen tundra. It can get 40 below wind chill. I remember one year when I was 10, the real temp actually got -60. It gets insanely cold. So most people do keep their vehicles running when you go to the gas station or whatever, because your car is frozen and you're trying to warm it up. But, what was I going to say? Yeah, I think it was maybe a few days before when I read this, I had an Amber Alert that this lady, she had her vehicle running and she had her 1-year-old in his car seat in the back. And the person didn't realize a kid was in there. He jumped in, took off, and he hijacked a car, not knowing a kid was in there, and that turned into kidnapping. Fortunately, he was returned somewhere. I think it was an apartment building or whatever, but he was okay. There was no harm done to him. But could you imagine? It's like you run in someplace super quick thinking it'll be a minute, but it literally takes someone seconds to jump into a vehicle and tear out of there. So I live in a small town. It's usually safe, but I would not want to test that theory out. I'd be terrified. Usually if I have to run errands, and I know it'd be easier if the boys were just, chilling in the vehicle, I'll go pick up my mom and she'll sit in the car with them. That way it makes running errands so much easier if I have to do them during the day and not after my husband gets home. There's no way I could leave them in a vehicle. That's terrifying. Yeah, and people go on in this thread about summertime and leaving a kid in a locked vehicle with the windows up. Like, I couldn't imagine. And I remember I was reading through all of these and reading the articles, and it broke my heart, because so many kids, when it's hot out, parents they think that they dropped their kid off at daycare, when in reality they didn't, and they went to work, and by the time they're done with work and they go out to their car, they find out that their child has passed. I could not imagine having to go through that. So, just kind of heads up. I'm going to find his update real quick. It's just, let's see. Okay, update on the situation. Where are you? Okay. He put, update on the situation. I sat my wife down this morning and did apologize for the way I went about things, but said I was not sorry for caring about our son's safety. And in the moment, I felt like she needed a huge wake-up call. She apologized for lying and continuing to do this unsafe practice. I asked her why she seemed so casual about what she is doing. Most parents I know, myself included, are on the paranoid side when it comes to their kids, and she has been doing this for so long without seeing an issue. I asked if she thinks she's dealing with some kind of postpartum mental health issue, as I don't consider this normal. She broke down crying, saying she doesn't know what's wrong with her. She has agreed to seek counseling, and until there's a major improvement, I will be running all errands with my son, or we will be doing them together. But I told her I cannot trust her anymore to take him places by herself. I don't know, I think that's pretty fair. And sometimes with postpartum, you don't realize anything's wrong until you get help and you feel better and you didn't realize just how bad you were. With my second, I have been struggling with PPD and postpartum anxiety. I knew something was off immediately with the way my son's birth happened and how he went to the NICU, that it was traumatizing. So I knew that I should seek help immediately. So I've been doing therapy and medication, and it is night and day how I feel. I never had any issues where I didn't bond with my child, but I was to the point where I was so paranoid and worried about everything that it consumed me. Like, I was worried about everything. My son is an extremely, extremely good sleeper, and I would wake up all the time and check on him. And I mean, sometimes I'd have to poke him just to make sure, he just, you know what I mean? If you're a parent out there, I'm sure you've done this. But I mean, it was consuming me, and it's like, no, I know, it shouldn't be like this. So, postpartum depression, I don't know, I think it needs to be talked about more. I think people need to know that it looks different on everyone. It's not always about not bonding with your baby. It can look many different ways. So I made a video on that if you want to check it out on my channel. But yeah, I'm glad I got help because I didn't realize just how bad it was until I started feeling better. Then it's like, why did I suffer so long when it was so unnecessary? So if you are postpartum and you feel something's off, better safe than sorry, and just make an appointment with, a psychiatrist, a nurse practitioner of psychiatry, someone that specializes in mental health, because a general practitioner or OB, they don't always spot the more complex cases of postpartum depression. So there was that segment. Okay, I figured I would end on a lighter, funnier note. This is from the subreddit, Today I Fucked Up. Okay, today I fucked up by violently shitting in my toddler's potty. This evening after dinner, I was cleaning up and started feeling a rumbly in my tummy. I called my husband, who I thought was downstairs, to come up and watch our toddler as I needed to poop. I couldn't wait for him, so I ran up the stairs, trusting he would arrive shortly. I was clenching for dear life as I rounded the corner into our bedroom. I threw open the bathroom door, and to my absolute horror, saw my husband sitting on our toilet. I screamed something unintelligible, and in a blind panic, all I could think to do was aim for the mini potty my 2-year-old daughter uses in our bathroom. Shortly after everything in my bowels was ejected, my daughter came into our bathroom looking for us because obviously her dad never showed up to watch her. I watched her tiny face morph from confusion to abject horror as she realized what happened. It got worse once I realized there was no way to ever clean that potty enough for her to use again, and bagged it up for the trash. My daughter started freaking out and having an all-out toddler meltdown, saying that I ruined her potty that she loves more than anything in the world. Thanks to Amazon Prime, a new one will be arriving between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. tomorrow. TLDR, I had violent diarrhea in my toddler's mini potty. She became enraged. A new one is arriving tomorrow. I don't know, sometimes with some heavier type topics, it's always funny to read something like this. Unfortunately, this hasn't happened to me, but who knows what the future holds. Then what I love is like people sharing their stories in the comments. One person put, when I was pregnant with my youngest, I ended up with gestational diabetes and got put on metformin. A side effect is severe gastrointestinal distress, which can come out of nowhere. On my second day taking it, I wound up unable to make it to the bathroom due to being a fat-ass prego person, and I shat myself. It's been 5 years, and my kids still bring it up. They were 2, 3, and 5. Oh, man. Someone said, apparently I told my mom that doing drugs was bad and I wanted her to stop. School taught us that cigarettes were drugs, and I decided to announce that without the tobacco context in the busy grocery store line. I was probably 5. Someone else, when I learned that nicotine was a drug, I put 2 and 2 together and got 5. I accused my uncle, who was a smoker, of being a drug dealer, loudly in a grocery store. It's been 30 years and he still brings it up. Oh man, that would be mortifying. Someone says, I yelled at my mom in public for drinking and driving. She had opened a can of Pepsi during the drive. See, when I was little too, I'd hear the term drinking and driving, and I thought, that meant, my mom drinking her Coca-Cola. It's like, oh no, my mom drinks and drives. But yeah, it's not alcohol. And then my dad, he takes a medication for his thyroid. And I remember him saying something like, oh, I have to go to the pharmacy to get my drugs. And when you're little and just hearing, all the bad things about drugs, my little mind was racing like, oh my God, my dad does drugs, and just freaking out. I don't know, it's crazy what little kids think about, but they're not wrong. Okay, let's see if there's any more funny ones. I don't know, I think that's about it. This was a quick one, so I'll be back with another one. Alright, this comes from the subreddit Beyond the Bump. My husband wants to use corporal punishment. I don't. We have a 5-month-old. Things have been hard and we're in couples counseling. Last night, we got into a discussion about parenting styles. My husband wants to spank and pinch our child. Those are literally his words. He said he wouldn't beat our son and would never hurt him, but spanking and pinching him is hurting him. I grew up in a violent household. My mother regularly lost her cool and chased us around the house, dragged us out from under the bed, broke many wooden spoons on us, filled our mouths with soap. When my older sister hit adolescence, she became violent too. She would scream abuse at me, kick holes in the walls, throw things at me. I promised the cycle would stop with me if I had children. The thing is, my husband's father was also violent. I can't understand how he would want to perpetuate that. I don't want my son to be afraid of us. I don't feel good about this. The counselors seem to almost be agreeing with him, and I felt really ganged up on. She asked what it would look like if my husband used corporal punishment, and I didn't. Has anybody dealt with a similar issue in your relationship? How does it work if one parent hits and the other doesn't? Has anybody managed to convince their partner against using corporal punishment? ETA. Not now, of course. My husband would not spank or pinch a baby. He wants to use corporal punishment later when the child is old enough to understand actions and consequences. ETA. To everyone who took the time to thoughtfully share your experiences and resources with me, thank you so much. I feel so much better equipped to discuss my concerns with my husband and our therapist. I've also gotten him to agree to reading The Whole Brain Child and No More Drama Discipline together, as well as take some parenting courses. I'm going to start with the Big Little Feelings course, and I plan to show him Mr. Chaz on Instagram. I think this will really resonate with him, and listen to Janet Lansbury's podcast together. Thank you all again. Okay, yeah, me, myself, I don't believe in corporal punishment. I've done a lot of reading in just with how to raise children, and of course it's reading, but I read that corporal punishment gets you absolutely nowhere. That with positive reinforcement, it's so much better. And I never want my children to be afraid of me or my husband. I want them to see us and know that we're their safe haven, that no matter what, we have their back. We're here to keep them safe. I couldn't imagine hurting them. So let's see what the comments say. I'm a father myself, and I want absolutely nothing to do with people who hit their kids. If I found out one of my coworkers was, I'd have to get moved to a different crew because I don't think I could keep my cool working around someone like that. And I just had in my head on what I was gonna say, but I hate when that happens where I just forget. But trying to think. I hate when people say, well, I was spanked as a child and I turned out fine. And it's like, no, I'm sure you have some deep-seated issues that you might not even know about. And then I was telling Justin, my husband, it's like, I want our children to have a happy, healthy childhood. I don't want them to have to go to therapy when they're older to recover from their childhood. You know what I mean? I don't want them to experience anything traumatic because of us. Well, at all, really, but especially because of us. And they have to heal from their childhood. Like, absolutely not. I don't want that to ever be a thing. Let's see. Okay, someone says, if I was in your situation, I would remove a child from even the possible threat of getting hurt by a parent. I also grew up with an abusive parent and a parent who watched it happen and did nothing. I suffer as an adult from what I experienced, and I resent both of them for their role. Do you think it's possible that he could change his tune when he sees his kid grow up into a little person? My husband has softened up a lot as our kiddos have gotten older. We had serious conversations about how we plan to raise our kids prior to having our first. And I made it clear that I had no problem with him being tougher than I am, but I wouldn't tolerate any physical violence or mental emotional intimidation toward them. To anyone reading this that this might be relevant to, please have this conversation with your partner before having kids. And I just want to interject and say, absolutely. My husband and I, like I said earlier, we talked endlessly about how we wanted to raise our kids. Like, I would ask him, if, say we have a son, and he came out to you saying he was gay, would you disown him? And he's like, absolutely not. It's like, I wanted to cover my bases because who you have a child with matters. And I don't know, sometimes people don't really put a lot of thought into that. And I wanted to make damn sure that whoever I have children with, I did the best I could to discuss it beforehand. Okay. Then they said, interestingly, I had a convo with my younger brother. He's 30, so not that young, who obviously grew up in the same household as me, but didn't get the abuse as bad, where he told me he wants his kids to fear him a little. He doesn't have kids and probably won't for a while, but I really can't believe he feels that way. I do believe he'll feel differently when he does have kids, though. Well, let's hope so. The problem is, the problem is that I couldn't remove my son. A hypothetical conversation about possible future punishments is not enough for the courts to give me full custody. And that was OP that said that, the poster. Yeah, I think you guys get the gist of it. That, have these conversations with your significant other if you're planning on the route of someday having children and being a family, because no one wants to be like the bad cop when the other person wants to be the fun parent. You know what I mean? You have to be a united front and have each other's backs. I never make it so my husband is, the bad guy and I'm fun mom. And I know he'd never make it so that I'm mean mama and he's fun daddy. You know what I mean? So, anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of I'm Just an Asshole Sometimes. If you're enjoying this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a rating on Spotify. It takes 2 seconds. Or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. Let's discuss this. I don't know. I love discussing everything that I read on here. And sometimes I don't have that option. So hopefully you guys can discuss some of these with me. So I hope everyone is having a great day, night, morning, wherever you are. And as always, guys, don't be an asshole unless it's absolutely called for. And disrespected. OP, most definitely. I think it is really messed up, actually. I don't know. I tell her no. And if she asks why, it's none of her business. I don't know. This is always told to me, guys, and it's true. No is a complete sentence. It's like, have boundaries, stick by your boundaries. Don't let anyone push you around because, no, it's bullshit. It's not worth it. So that concludes story number 2 for Am I the Asshole? Okay, guys, I hope you're enjoying my first ever podcast, but we're gonna continue on. Okay, this one. Am I the asshole for telling my son I was disappointed after he and his wife lied about my grandson's birth date? My son, 23, and his wife just had a baby boy. Everyone is overjoyed and excited, but there have been some issues that have risen recently. When my daughter-in-law was pregnant, I suggested that I host a welcoming party for my grandson right after she gets discharged from the hospital. I made arrangements and even emptied a room for them to stay, but for some reason she was against it and said she'd rather spend the first few weeks at home with her newborn. Not only that, but she said no to the welcoming party. My husband and I talked to my son, and he said, we'll see. But just a couple days ago, we found out that my daughter-in-law had given birth 2 weeks ago, and no one knew about it. My nephew told me, and I immediately called my son. He confirmed it. He and his wife lied then, hid the date of the birth from the family. I told him that was not acceptable. Lying just because they did not want a welcoming party and love and support being given from family. I told him I was disappointed because, for one, he ruined our welcoming for our grandbaby, and also I invited family members, and they're all rightfully disappointed as well. He said it was his last resort after all. I kept pushing and made his wife uncomfortable, and that was not appreciated because we were just trying to celebrate the new family member in a proper manner. We had an argument, and he ended the call upon saying I ruined his joy for his newborn. My husband started texting him since he stopped replying to our phone calls, and now is threatening to block my nephew for tattling